her parents, my understanding is her grandparents came from somewhere in the States, and they settled up by Owen Sound, which is a plateau in Ontario, very, very good farmland. And Jay came from Priceville, which his house still exists. It's now a senior's home. At least it was the last time I was there. So, those early days were formidable, and I thought that we were taught manners, and we were taught that, you don't treat people with spite or anything. You treat all people equal, whether they're the King of England or the Queen of England or the lowest person on the street, in which I do. I don't, there's no class distinction, quote unquote, put it another way, with me. Everybody is the same to me. It doesn't matter who you are. And that was great advice, because people respect you for not looking down on them or treating them indifferently.
Your mother's father, your grandfather, what kind of business was he in?
Well, he was retired. Walter, his name was Walter Hunt. My birth grandfather I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Jay's grandfather, his name was William, or Jay's father's name was William. He was in barn building. They built barns in New York State and Ontario and all over. Jay had a Duesenberg. Jay had a Duesenberg when he was 16 years old. There's only about 4 of them left in the world. That's how rich they were.
And this was your father's business, was going around building barns, and they built them whereabouts?
New York State, Ontario. My understanding, all around.
Wow.
And Jay, of course, they worked together on it. And that was their business. And I think they had a small farm too as well. But Maggie was the one that died in the parlor, was Jay's mother.
Did your father, on the properties that he owned, did he ever have cows or chickens or pigs, or was he?
Oh yes, we had the farm we had in Cookstown, just south of Cookstown. I had a pet goat.
Really?
Billy goat. Yeah. 1952, the quintet quadrupler, whatever
Dion quintuplets.
Dion quintuplets were born. We all jumped in the car and we went up. Yeah.
Where were the Dion quintuplets?
North Bay, Ontario.
And so you guys drove up from Barrie?
No, from Cookstown.
Cookstown.
And up we went and took a look and back. But when we come back, my billy goat hung himself, wrapped him. I had him on a chain in the stake.
Oh.
And he went around. When we got back,
oh, you're kidding.
He hung himself. So needless to say, we had goat meat for a couple of days. But anyway, that
So tell me about the Dion quintuplets. Do you remember sort of?
Well, it was cruel. They had them. You walked in, and there was kind of like a board sidewalk, and they had them in this kind of enclosure with a glass front on it. And many years later, I thought that was so cruel. And they were actually treated very cruelly. I think, I'm not positive on this, but I think 1 or 2 of them may have committed suicide. I think there's 2 of them were still alive a few years ago. I don't know now if there's any of them still alive. But it was terrible. They were just like a showpiece. It was just terrible.
Like a zoo almost.
And the government promoted it.
Really? How was the government involved?
Well, the provincial government allowed them to be put on display.
Really?
So they're.
And did they charge a fee?
Yes. Yeah.
So you paid a few dollars to go and see. What was it? 5 babies?
5 babies. Yeah.
Wow.
It was terrible. I think back about it now. I don't think about it often, mind you, but you do when you get to be my age. You do think back on certain things, and that was just disgusting the way they were treated. They subsequently were awarded a financial compensation for their trauma, but that doesn't take away the mental aspect.
Do you think they were kind of treated like that not only as babies, but as they grew up? Everywhere they went, they were a sideshow?
Yeah, basically, yeah. And then till they separated and split up, I think a couple of the girls, of course North Bay has a large French population, and they were French. And I think subsequently a couple of the girls moved to Quebec. I don't know whatever happened to the other 3 through time, because I basically spent from the age of 19 to, well, off and on. That's another story, but I worked in the Yukon for a couple of years.
Yeah, why don't you tell us about that? Like after you finished high school,
I went to business college.
Whereabouts was that?
In Midland, Ontario.
What'd you study?
Business. And I got
a couple of years?
Yeah, I got a job at Canadian National Telecommunications at 151 Front Street in Toronto. My uncle, he ran the school. He got me the job. They got, it's like they do today. If you go to vocational school, you get a job. People will hire you from there, and that's basically what happened to me. But this is the days of telex, and we used to work on the tube portions where a telex would come in, say, from London, and if it was going to Vancouver, well, you took it out of the London basket, in basket, and put it in the Vancouver out basket, which was a vacuum tube, which sucked it up and put it up into the Vancouver box. But there was a notice on the board for a position in the Yukon, and I thought, Jesus, this is kind of a boring job, this telex thing. So subsequently, a friend of mine, Jimmy, his name was James too, we took his 67, I think it was 67 or was it a 65? No, it was earlier than that. Buick convertible, and off we went to Whitehorse.
You drove from there all the way to
Whitehorse, and
how long did that take you to do that?
Oh, it took us about 3 days. Could we stop?
Yeah,
we didn't, but 3 or 4 days. His brother Larry had already been living there, so subsequently we both worked for CN, so we got transferred basically to CNT in Whitehorse, which is now Northwest Tel.
Oh, really?
But CNT and CP used to run all the telecommunications links in Canada, microwaves and telexes and stuff. CN, CP.
So once you got up there, what was your job?
I was a lineman. I didn't know what to get myself in.
Really?
I was scared of heights.
So what did you end up doing?
Well, I ended up climbing. I'll never forget it. I had a line foreman named Amo Brzicki. He was from Edmonton, and the superintendent, Richard Rakowski, they're both Ukrainian boys, were from Edmonton, both of them. But they worked in the summer up there. And I'd install phones in the winter. But anyway, he said to me, first time I looked at a pole, the first time they gave me spurs and climbing gear, and I said, I don't know if I can do this or not. He said, here's what I want you to do. He said, I want you to climb up this pole, and we went up 5 feet, and to show you how to spur and go up 5 feet. He said, now I want you to go up 10 feet. So I'm up 10 feet. He said, not so bad. He said, now I want you to go up 20 feet. So up I go, 20 feet. He said, when you get up there, I want you to stop. Lean back on your belt, look around, fear heights disappeared.
Is that right?
It never
really
had
worked.
it again. Yeah, never had it again.
So that's what you were doing, going along the power lines?
Well, we were going along the Alaska Highway, and we were moving all the communications poles over because we were taking out the dead ones and the old ones. But they were starting to take some of the curves out of the Alaska Highway. It was intentionally built with zigzags all the way up it, so the Japanese couldn't bomb big lengths of it.
They built it in almost zigzag so that you couldn't...
intentionally.
Really?
Yeah, well, you could still see when I was up there, the old line shacks that they had with the phones in them. I actually had a collection of phones, and then when I got divorced, they went actually before that. I don't know where they are today. Maybe they even got stolen out of the garage. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, subsequently, I ended up, Richard said to me one day, we want you to write the line foreman's paper. And I said, okay. He said, you're way too smart to be climbing a pole.
Yeah.
And so I wrote them and I passed, so I became a line foreman.
So you had a crew that you worked with?
I was only 19 years old.
Really? And you were running a crew?
Yeah. We were Watson Lake, Lake Teslin, all down through there. Watson Lake, was the place. They got some of the best Arctic char on that lake you could possibly imagine.
Is that right?
But the summer, we worked long hours. We worked basically 6 in the morning until, we'd go for breakfast at 6. And then we would work until, 10 or 11 o'clock at night, because in the summertime it's 24 hours daylight, But you can't work, too much beyond that.
And you were there through the winters too?
Yes, in the wintertime I would go work in the exchange and install phones. Actually, I froze my hand so bad, my fingers so bad, because you had to take off your gloves to get these damn can wrenches on to hook the wire on, because you couldn't do it with your mitts on. You tried to go as fast as you could, but up there at 50 below zero in those days, your hands froze in a minute.
Really?
Yeah. So you had to be careful, because if your both hands froze, you weren't coming down that pole other than one way, and that's jump or slide.
Kidding. So how many years were you up there, James?
2 years. Then I was transferred to Northern Ontario.
Yeah.
We did all kinds of pole work along the Algonquin, in through Algonquin Park, between Ottawa and North Bay, and then we were then I was sent to London, or to Oakville, and I ran a repair gang. We would go and fix poles that had snapped in storms and stuff like that all over the place. Chalk River, London, Ontario, God, you name it. We were on the road. We lived.
And
in
what was it? It was the same company that you were.
Yeah, yeah.